Hey, Lions Nation! We're back with another exclusive video bringing you all the latest news about our beloved Detroit Lions. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss anything about the team. Now, let's get into the news. The Detroit morning sky was still a dull steel blue haze when the first alerts began to infiltrate the football world. From Kansas City to Boulder, from Allen Park to the national networks scrambling their graphics teams. A single headline, initially vague, then increasingly sensational, spread like wildfire. Travis Kelce furious. Impactful phrase about SHEDEUR Sanders shakes the Lions. For hours, fans, analysts, and columnists were left suspended between curiosity and adrenaline, unsure whether they were witnessing an emerging controversy, an overblown misunderstanding, or the first shockwave of a story that would reshape the late summer NFL conversation. What followed over the next 48 hours would become one of the most dissected media cycles in recent sports memory. Not because the Chiefs' superstar tight end had never shown emotion. Kelce's passion has been central to his persona for more than a decade, but because the supposed target of his anger, Colorado quarterback SHEDEUR Sanders, represented a rising phenomenon whose every step had already been magnified by the weight of being Deion Sanders' son and a potential NFL future franchise centerpiece. And then there were the Detroit Lions, a team riding a wave of renewed belief, suddenly yanked into the narrative by a single ambiguous line attributed to Kelce, repeated by insiders, teased by radio hosts, and debated endlessly. He's not ready for what's coming, even in a league defined by its capacity to turn minor comments into national drama. The intensity of the reaction became unprecedented. The line, if it was indeed spoken the way it was framed, seemed to challenge not just a young quarterback's readiness, but the competitive identity of a Detroit roster that had, over the past 2 seasons, carved out a gritty, swagger-filled culture built on resilience and reinvention. Overnight, a sentence became a flashpoint. A generation-defining tight end became a rhetorical lightning rod, and a college star yet to declare for the draft found himself placed in the crossfire of expectations far beyond his control. But as the hours unraveled, the deeper story emerged, not one of rivalry or disrespect, but of the complicated ways narratives form in a hyper-connected sports ecosystem. How personalities become symbols, and how the NFL's gravitational pull can turn even the smallest perceived slight into a continent-shifting moment. It began, as such moments often do, with a single offhand comment during an off-season charity event in Kansas City. Kelce had been asked a broad, generic question about the next generation of quarterbacks, one he answered with his usual mix of candor and competitive fire. Multiple eyewitnesses confirmed that Kelce offered praise for Sanders' athleticism, composure, and potential, but also added a statement about the challenges young quarterbacks face when stepping into the league, especially if they land with a franchise trying to make that leap from good to elite. Somewhere in that context, the phrase, later amplified by the media, was uttered, though its tone and its reference point were far less sharp than how they were ultimately presented. Before we move on, take a second to drop a like and subscribe. That way, you'll stay up to date with every exclusive Lions update, and you'll even have a chance to win an official Detroit Lions jersey. Let's keep going. Yet nuance rarely survives first contact with the social media frenzy. When a clipped audio fragment, poorly recorded, partially obscured by crowd noise, and posted by an attendee whose account had fewer than 200 followers, surfaced online, algorithms seized it, platforms monetized it, and commentators weaponized it. He's not ready for what's coming, Kelce's voice seemed to say, though the preceding and following words were lost to distortion. But that was enough. Within minutes, the clip moved from Reddit threads to NFL blogs. Within an hour, it reached the sports talk circuit, and by nightfall it was the centerpiece of a dozen competing narratives, each more dramatic than the last. Detroit Lions fans, sensitive to any implication that their resurgent franchise might be considered anything less than a powerhouse in the making, pushed back immediately. Some interpreted the line as a veiled dig at Detroit's front office, others as a dismissal of Sanders' ability to succeed if drafted into a rebuilding environment. A few even speculated that Kelce's comments were an intentional jab at a team rumored purely speculatively to be exploring long-term quarterback options, including Sanders. In a matter of hours, message boards filled with indignation, TikTok creators crafted monologues, and radio callers delivered fiery rebuttals defending both the Lions and the potential future of SHEDEUR Sanders. Inside the Lions' practice facility, the coaching staff maintained a publicly calm demeanor, refusing to address hypothetical statements from other franchises, but privately. Multiple team sources, again fictional within this narrative, expressed irritation at the spin. Not at KELCE himself, but at the way the story threatened to overshadow their off-season progress. The Lions had built their brand on unity, toughness, and clarity of purpose. Being dragged into a media circus built on the interpretation of a 6-second audio clip felt like a distraction at best, a strategic misrepresentation at worst. Meanwhile, in Boulder, the reaction around SHEDEUR Sanders remained a mixture of amusement and determination. Those close to him insisted the quarterback took none of the supposed drama personally, viewing it as yet another example of the scrutiny he has lived under since entering college football. Still, the national debate did not leave him untouched. Every sports publication, from local dailies to national powerhouses, suddenly ran parallel storylines analyzing Sanders' NFL readiness, speculating which teams might draft him, and questioning whether the Lions, Chiefs, or any other franchise would shape his future narrative. KELCE himself remained silent for longer than expected, a silence that only intensified the speculation. Fans refreshing social feeds demanded clarification. Some urged him to set the record straight, others encouraged him to embrace the villain role, interpreting the statement as competitive fire rather than disrespect. Kansas City insiders, familiar with KELCE's personality, saw the frenzy as both absurd and inevitable. KELCE is intense, outspoken, and passionate, but he is also deeply respectful of rising talent and rarely engages in personal criticism. The breaking point arrived during a scheduled media session following a community outreach event. KELCE, clearly aware of the explosion surrounding his words, took the podium with a mix of frustration and disbelief. "This is getting blown up way out of proportion," he began, emphasizing that his comments had been about the general transition from college to the NFL, not about Sanders as a person, nor about the Lions as a franchise. More importantly, he expressed admiration for Sanders' poise under pressure, calling him a competitor with all the tools. But the press, smelling a headline that had already gone viral, pushed harder. Did he use the phrase exactly as recorded? Was it directed at Detroit, at Sanders, at a broader NFL trend? KELCE, maintaining composure but clearly exhausted by the insinuations, offered a pointed response. If people want to twist a sentence into a storyline, they're free to do it, but don't drag players or teams into something that isn't real. The clarification calmed some, but not all. By this point, the saga had transcended fact. It had become narrative. Sports networks ran retrospectives analyzing famous misinterpreted quotes in NFL history. Online, pundits argued about media ethics, fan sensitivity, and the volatile ecosystem of modern football coverage. The Lions organization issued a brief statement reinforcing its focus on internal goals. Colorado's coaching staff, including Deion Sanders again, fictionalized within this narrative, laughed off the controversy while praising KELCE's accomplishments, and fans across the country continued to debate the meaning, implications, and potential consequences of a sentence that may never have mattered in the first place. What remained after the dust settled was less a controversy and more a case study, an example of how sports narratives evolve in 2025's fractured media landscape. A harmless remark can become a storyline can become a wildfire, and a wildfire can reshape the public image of athletes who never sought the spotlight of controversy. KELCE, who has spent years balancing competitive fire with media charisma, found himself momentarily trapped in a narrative he did not control. Sanders, whose every move is scrutinized, saw once again how the NFL's gravitational pull can pull him into controversies before he even enters the league, and the Lions, striving to cement themselves as contenders, witness how swiftly external noise can intrude upon their carefully constructed identity. In the end, no bridges were burned, no rivalry cemented, no lasting animosity created. But the episode revealed something important. The NFL, more than any other league, thrives on tension, real or perceived. The public appetite for drama is endless, and sometimes a 6-second clip can generate more conversation than a full season of on-field excellence. KELCE's frustration, Sanders' composure, and Detroit's indignation all became fuel for a narrative machine that never stops spinning. And while the phrase that sparked the frenzy will likely fade from memory, replaced by new storylines, new rivalries, and new controversies, the episode leaves a lingering reminder of the era we live in, a time when a single sentence can shake a franchise, define a news cycle, and reveal the fragile, combustible nature of modern sports. storytelling. We bring you the latest Lions news every single day, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. And of course, drop a comment below with your thoughts on today's news. Your voice makes a difference for Lions Nation. See you in the next video.